We're going to open up the meeting. We're going to the meeting of the South End Village Zoning Board of Appeals. We have, you have an agenda. There is one application that will not be heard. That is 2898 Brian Kelly. That application has been withdrawn, so if anybody's here for that, we're not going to be hearing it. And we have 5 decisions. First one being 9 Main Street LLC. Can I have a motion on that?
I move that we adopt the decision as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there copies of any of those, Mr. Chairman?
Would you like a copy?
Yeah, First Neck Lane.
We haven't adopted it yet.
Oh, did I? Okay.
I can give you 9 Main Street. if you want.
No, I'm sorry, I thought you did.
I don't remember any landscaping from that meeting.
On the application of case 2887, 259 South Main Street Revocable Trust.
I move we accept this decision as offered.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that the one you want?
Yep.
It is a decision that I prepared, incorporates the wetland special permit. And I don't have an extra copy of that. Any of you have an extra copy of
I
the
have one copy.
There you go. Revocable
59
trust.
South Main Street?
2887.
Oh, that's great.
59 South Main Street.
Alrighty.
On the application of case number 2889, Real Estate Organization Belgium LLC, 477 First Neck Lane.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the application of case number
Chairman, I'm
2...
sorry, could I get a copy of that?
There you go. Oh, you got it.
We're ready for you this time.
Did you have a separate one on that, Rick?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, he's got it.
Oh, the separate one, which one? No, that's just wetland though. Oh, wait,
I would think it's just
477.
yeah, that's just
476.
six.
Just chicks.
Just
Thank you very much.
On the application of case number 2892, David Hyrick, 146 Hetty Creek Lane.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I bother you for a copy of that, Mr. Chairman?
You're a busy guy.
There's my part, and
You have the wetlands on that one, Jerry?
Yeah.
Hetty Creek, is that?
Nope, that's next. 477, first thing.
no, this one is
David
Oh, it
Hyrick.
is Hetty.
Yeah,
146 Hetty Creek, yeah.
thank you, sir.
And on the application of case number 2893, Von Robinturn Beach Holdings LLC, 1820 Meadow Lane.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That brings us down to the pending cases, first one being 2886, Capital Telecom and Singular Wireless, 153 Powell Avenue.
Okay,
Nobody here for that?
right, on that one, we're still waiting, we're waiting for the planning board to do the secret determination. And we indicated to the applicant that they didn't need to come until we had that. There's nothing we can do until we get that.
I watched the planning board the other night, and they had that case. I think they either closed it or they held it open for 1 month pending written. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's possible they might do the secret at the December 7 or whatever they're, yeah, that they have another meeting on December 7. It's possible that they might do it then, but we won't know until that meeting occurs. So maybe we'll have something for our December meeting.
Okay. 2890, Jody Donahue, 1211 Meadow Lane. Nobody here for that again? Any story with that, Rick?
The last thing that happened on that was that Chick had some comments that he wanted more information on, and
The applicant was given a memo, and I did receive a phone call before that meeting, so the last I heard, they were working on it. But I don't know why they haven't, let us know what's going on.
Called us or sent anything in requesting adjournment or anything?
No. I have not heard in the past month.
I have a motion to hold that open.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
On the application, case number 2895, Cersei and Leslie Dryden, 193 Meeting House Lane.
Good evening. I'm Fred Weber, architect for Cersei and Leslie Dryden. I reside at 41 East Maple Road, Greenlawn, New York, and 52 Noyak Path, Watermill. At the last meeting, a request was made that I get an agreement from the, at least an approval from the owner that that they agree not to rent the property, not to rent the rear structure, which is a garage apartment, but to only use that for guests and relatives, and they have agreed to that.
okay, with that said, then the application is covered. If they hadn't agreed to that, they were gonna have to amend the application and re-advertise to ask for additional variances. But with that in place, it's, the only thing we're involved in is the covered porch addition, so that covers that. I don't know that we had any more questions on that, so maybe we could close it unless there's something more you want to offer.
No, I mean, I have the plans of the porch, but I showed them to you at the first meeting.
Yep.
Let's just see if there's anyone out in the public who wants to be heard to this application. Is there anyone there who wants to be heard to this? No. We can close it for decision then, correct?
Yep.
I move we close this application for decision.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
That brings us down to the new cases, and the first three are really all one application, 2899, 2899, 2899. Cooper's Neck Family LLC, Meadowmere Partners LLC, Meadowmere Associates LLC. This has to do with wetlands.
Okay, Jim Walker from InterScience on behalf of Cooper's Neck Family LLC, Meadowmere Partners LLC, and Meadowmere Associates LLC. I assume it's all right if I do all three public hearings at the same time. All three properties will be handled together as a single property. The landscape architect is Arias Design, and Michelle Madonna is here to present the plans or answer any questions that you might have. The project is a shoreline restoration. Doesn't have any development aspect or any other improvement except the wetlands. We met with Mr. Voorhees for about 11 months on the shoreline
Not every day.
to discuss the location of the wetlands line, which ends up not being all that important to the project per se. We've also met with the DEC. The project consists of removing non-native invasive species and replacing them with native shoreline vegetation. This is a similar project that I brought before the board twice. The first one was Anthony Paduano on Lake Agawam. It's a smaller piece of property with a more restricted wetlands and wetlands buffer, but the project went quite well. And then we did another one for Melvin and Helen Heller, 1320 Meadow Lane. And that project was done in a Phragmites marsh, and it came out just spectacular. The one on Paduano's property was done by Jimmy Lynch. The one that was done on Heller's property was done by Dave Sue Grunge from Montauk. Both guys did a really nice job. The bottom line for this type of project is hand removal of common reed. And I don't think it's a very well-established management tool for common reed, but it works on smallish pieces of property that where there's a finite amount of wetlands to be worked on. And what it amounts to is, we don't touch the cattails that are here, but all the Phragmites and purple loosestrife and the lesser celandine and all the non-native plants that cause problems in wetlands are dug up by hand with a shovel, usually with a four-man crew. You dig up the rhizomes, you expose them, you pull the material out of the ground, you throw it in a wheelbarrow. Take the wheelbarrow to a truck, fill up the truck, drive it to the dump. That's as sophisticated as the project gets. The way that we know that this type of project works is regulatory agencies, especially on the east end of Long Island, since early 90s, have been requiring wetlands buffers and wetlands shoreline restorations in a wide variety of areas. Some of the worst are common reed, and Japanese knotweed is pretty close. And we had to plant out these vegetated buffers, and when they were first done, they were all fields of weeds. And they were very unsuccessful, and they were ugly, and the people didn't like them, and pretty soon they got mowed, and there were illegal wetlands violations, and all kinds of things happened. Sooner or later, the process got more predictable, and people came in and figured out how to handle native plantings. So now if you go to Lynch's, you can buy native plants. You can buy them for a reasonable price. The varieties are easy to access, and if you can't get it at Lynch's, there are a wide variety of specialist outfits that will provide the plant materials. So we're taking the lessons that we learned in other locations, and we're going to Halsey Neck Pond. Halsey Neck Pond is a brackish pond. It's connected to Shinnecock Bay by a series of large ditches. The easiest one to see is under Halsey Neck Lane, where the bridge is broken, and they're fixing the bridge. The village is working on it. This pond is also connected to Cooper's Neck Pond by a series of underground conduits that have just been replaced by the highway superintendent, which I helped get permits for. So what you have here is brackish water. It doesn't get really salty, it doesn't get really fresh. And you have an interesting mix of vegetation that exists naturally, but it's prone to invasion by common reed. So what do? You go in there, you control the common reed, and then you plant other plant material. Large sections of it would be just switchgrass and blue vervain, but then there's other plant materials mixed all the way through. Masses of shrubs, drifts of wildflowers, clumps of native grasses, and wetland species mixed in to the extent that we need to get state approval and the village approval. And Chick has been down to the site several times. We discussed the approach on the project with him. It's a fairly ambitious project. It's not easy to do. There's not a whole lot of incentive. He's not doing it so he can get a bigger house or something like that. This is really a shoreline project for those purposes. It's to restore the shoreline and make a more intact wetlands buffer and wetlands proper right along the shoreline. So I think that's the most of it. Michelle has passed out smaller versions of this. This is the survey. It's 3 lots. This is where A.V. Mortimer lives. These are 2 single and separate lots. There's a big ditch that runs down the side. We're not going to work in this area. It's remote from the property and there's open water in between, and there's no reason to work or touch on this property. This is the air photo. This is land that doesn't need to be considered. It's really the shoreline from here to there. And that's the type of work that we're proposing. If members of the board are interested, I urge you to go down and look at the Heller property, 1320 Meadow Lane. It's easy to see. Or go down Pond Lane, look across the pond to Paduana's property, and take a look at the nice little project that was done by Jimmy Lynch there, and on the Heller property, the work that was done by James C. Grimes. They're really nice projects, and they're worth encouraging, and I think it's a nice project that would be a help for Halsey Neck Pond. If you have any questions, you could ask Michelle or myself.
Jim, could you touch on the small area of the shorefront that you're putting in core log?
Michelle can.
Sure. So in the areas where, hi, Michelle Madonna from Aris Design. In the areas where we are installing the core log, it's because we're removing Phragmites and invasive species, so it would basically stabilize the shoreline, and we stake the core logs along the shoreline and plant in the core logs. So it would just be planted with the native species.
Show where that went.
Yeah.
So we did use those chick, if you remember, on the Paduana project.
Yep.
They're still there.
Yeah, I just wanted the board to be aware, and also, Michelle, was there a detail on that?
There is a detail. There's a detail on the other sheet we submitted, which is DT1. So there's a detail on the core logs on that sheet, and also the methodology used to remove the Phragmites and restore the shoreline. And we're also going to be installing root barrier along this property line because there is neighboring Phragmites. So to prevent the Phragmites from intermixing with the native planting. And there will also be some root barrier, where is it? Oh, here it is. There is some Phragmites up in this area that's to remain undisturbed, so we are going to be installing some root barrier here as well, just to protect the new native plantings so it doesn't creep back in that
That's
way.
also similar to Paduana. Same kind of thing was required there.
And we also have a detail of that on the detail. Any questions?
Any other questions, Chip?
Just-
Worked very closely with this, I think.
We did, not as much on the design, but we had some suggestions. I think it came out good. The original purpose was to delineate the wetlands, so we established the boundary. And then one of the things that we really wanted to emphasize was to use the existing native vegetation that's there. So we asked Jim and Tim's office to really concentrate on that, which they've done, and that's reflected on the plan. So as Jim said, there's existing cattails, there's a number of trees and other shrubs and natural vegetation that exists. So I just had a couple of minor comments. One is that I noticed that there's like a linear path that goes along the shoreline. And in some areas it's within the wetlands, some areas it's within the buffer area, but it's all meandering through that planted area. And that's a little different than what we've looked at before. Usually we look at perpendicular paths, not linear paths, take the shortest distance across the wetlands. It seems to me as though this is not necessarily for access to the water body as much as just a walking path. But to be consistent with prior decisions and to not create a undesirable precedent, we would typically look for paths to be minimized in those areas. It does indicate that it's a native grass path, but it doesn't allow natural native vegetation, It might require maintenance, mowing, and that type of thing. So I think we would look for some type of consideration there for a change. And then if it is a Long Island wetland, I would like to encourage all native Long Island plant species. So I did notice too that are not native to Long Island, river birch and black elderberry. So I would just ask if you could look for substitutions there that are native to Long Island. I think that would make it a better plan. And then the only two other things were even more minor. There was a little bit of a conflicting note as far as topsoil or whether it's a loam sand mix. So we would encourage like a 75-25% mix of sand and loam as opposed to topsoil. I think you risk bringing in invasives and creating an environment for invasives. And there are notes in the Phragmites removal area that also conflicts with that. It talks about a mix of sand and organic matter, and there's another area where it talks about pure topsoil. So just, you know, those are very minor consistency things. And I did prepare a memo, if that would be helpful, that I'll leave with the board and with the applicant, if the board would like me to do that.
Tim, you have anything? Rob?
No.
Terry?
No questions?
Is there anyone out in the audience who'd like to hear of this application?
Overall, it's, you know, it's a very good restoration plan.
Thank you.
One good?
Yes.
You want to close this one decision?
I think we need to adjourn it for all purposes, because Chick has asked for some
Those changes?
some minor changes. We have them by the work session. If it's possible, we could do a decision, but we need to keep it open.
Okay.
I move we close this decision, leave this decision open for all decision, all purposes.
I'll second.
I'm gonna get it right back to you with the items that Chick.
Yeah, maybe you can have it in by the work session, which is the 15th. And
If
the
there's any
meeting is the
questions, Jim or
17th.
Tim, feel free to call.
All right,
Thank you
thanks a
very
lot.
On the application, case number 2900, Moses Lane LLC, 90 Breeze Lane.
Good evening, I'm Anastasios Kazakis, the architect on the project. Address? I'm here to request a variance for enclosing an existing roofed-over open porch that falls on a non-conforming front yard setback. And in addition to that, raise the existing roof of the entire home approximately 20 inches. And that's all of it.
Do you have the postings on this?
Affidavit? I do have it, yes. Right now?
Do you want it right now?
Yeah, if he has
Needs
them,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me. I have some photos as well. I don't know if they were included, the plans, that the condition along the sides, the street, along Edwards Lane.
We don't see him.
No?
Oh,
Yeah, here's some photos.
That's the proposed rendering. Pass you?
it's one story.
Copies or just one? Yep.
Son of gun.
Here we have the photos.
Different than this.
Are they not the same?
No.
Oh, we've got new photos.
I have the actual photos of.
We have some extras you want to buy.
Okay.
Hang them over the bench. Can you reach them?
Sure. So the second and third photo show that the porch that's open, the pre-existing condition with the roof, and the proposal would be to close that off, which would become a master bathroom for the master bedroom area. And the roof too also falls in the non-conforming area for front yards and side, I think just front. So that whole roof being elevated would encroach on the setbacks as well.
So you're actually closing off that entrance to the house?
Correct.
So then the only entrance would be on the other street?
Yes, along Breeze
On Breeze Lane?
Yep. Actually, there is an entrance on Breeze Lane already.
Yeah.
And we're proposing that becomes, I guess, the main entrance with the portico, which is, conforms to the setbacks and the heights.
So there's no change to footprint or anything outside of the
Correct.
bathroom and whatnot? Yeah.
And the roof too would be the same profile, that cape style roof. It's just being elevated so they have more ceiling height on the inside of the house.
The reason that you're here is because you got two front yards, right?
Right.
Yes,
You didn't have the other front yard.
right. The other yard, I think, right, is 45, 40. Correct. Yep.
Do you have any other questions?
Seems reasonable. Yeah.
Dan, Jerry?
No,
Rick?
No questions?
Anyone out in the audience wish to hear to this application?
Applicant requests a front yard variance to 34.4 feet from Edward Lane in order to permit enclosing the existing covered front porch entry. Period. Such enclosure would be no closer to Edward Lane than the existing house. Period. Applicant also requests a rear yard variance to 26.9 feet from the northerly line in order to permit increasing the roof height at that location. Period. The increased height would not be any closer to the rear lot line than the existing house. Period. Therefore, these variance requests involve minor relief, which we find is warranted, and we grant the requested variances.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The application is case number 2901-1391 Meadow Lane LLC. 1391 Meadow Lane.
Can I read the notice? I should proceed?
Sure.
Oh, I was waiting for you to read the notice. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. John Bennett for the applicant, and Bailey Larkin from my office is with me as well, as is Tim Rum from Aries Design. You've seen this property before. The last time I was before you, you were kind enough to grant a variance for the a garage on the easterly side of the property. So we have a couple of requests for relief tonight, one of which is a little bit of front yard help for a deck to reorient the entrance, and I'll let Tim talk to you about that and about some other things in terms of how that lays out in terms of the design. But the primary thing we're here for this evening is to see if the board would consider granting relief for this pool on the easterly side of the property. My client came to me and asked me what the likelihood was that he could get a pool in the area on this house, and I told him quite candidly that he would have to be willing, in my opinion, to offer some things up for trade, to be very honest with you, to offer some things up for trade, to see how the board felt about that. So that's what I'm here generally to explore this evening. I'm sure Chick and the board will have some questions, so I just want to generally familiarize you with the application. There is, the board did grant by 2010 decision, which is part of the application. If you don't have copies, I can certainly have extra copies for you this evening.
Could I interrupt? Because
Yes,
my
yes,
packet from, I know your writer says that you submitted it, but my packet does not have a copy of it. I don't know if anybody else's do.
Oh, of the fire?
Yes.
Well, let's remedy that. I'm sorry.
And the survey next to this is
That's the
survey that was before the board before?
Let me make sure, Rick.
Okay.
It's a partial, because it was 2 copies.
Yes, it's a relevant section of it. So we go in there. Oh, here, let me. Jerry, you have one? Dan, do you have one? This is the existing variance for the garage, which was not.
It was not done, right?
Right. Not done. So generally, the idea is to put the garage in the area, the pool in the area where the garage would be. So, where do I start? The property does benefit from a Department of Environmental Conservation Board permit and a trustee permit for a dock. I think we have those for the board also, to the extent they weren't in
So
the
I
application.
gather that garage is not being constructed,
We prefer to construct the pool as opposed to the garage.
and that you would abandon that.
We would abandon that variance.
You just gave us these, didn't you?
Yes.
And then you gave it to us again.
Oh, Rick was saying it wasn't in this package.
It wasn't in my packet.
Oh, sorry.
No, but he
There's a
just
bunch of them.
handed,
There's extra ones.
handed them out here, then you handed it over there to
Oh,
Candace.
okay.
Right,
Um,
you like to snow us with paperwork, I know.
Yeah, I try. It doesn't seem to work, even though I try. So there's a DEC permit for a floating dock as well as a trustee permit, and that is in place on the site. Maybe let me hand up an aerial photograph because that'll help in some of the narrative as well. Aerial, I think it's 4 houses on there, but you can see the dock has been constructed and is in place. And so, I said to my client, is the, to be quite frank with you, is the pool important enough for you to put this, to put this dock into play? And he answered in the affirmative. So, in addition to, the thought is, in addition to abandoning the variance for the garage, to remove the dock from the, which is currently in the wetlands. This is the last house, I believe, isn't it? Yes. This is our client's property. It's the last house on the Wesley portion. Yes? Yes. The last house on the Wesley or the left side of the aerial photograph. And as you can see, there's a dock out there in the water. We would, as a condition to the grant of relief, remove the structure which currently obviously sits in and protrudes out into the wetlands. We would remove it and covenant against any such, that structure being rebuilt or any similar structure being rebuilt, in addition to abandoning the request for the garage. So although you have a permitted dock structure that sits in the wetlands, we would abandon it, pull it out, abandon it, obviously pursuant to whatever construction methodology or deconstruction methodology Chick was comfortable, Mr. Voorhees was comfortable with, and covenant against, obviously running with the land against anyone putting such a structure out there in the future. So in terms of pools in the area, admittedly I cherry-picked a little bit, but yeah, sue me. There are 4 houses shown here. Golub, which I know is sort of a tough thing to bring up because the board, at least on 2 occasions, has said that they thought that was a mistake, which hurt my feelings because that was one of my cases. But nevertheless, Golub does have a pool on the water side.
Our decision saying that it was a mistake were
talk about the pool as well.
okayed by the court.
No, I know that. I just said it hurt my feelings.
I just wanted to add that.
Let the record be clear.
My feelings are still hurt. So that's a, maybe it's of some interest, but I understand the history of it. Moving one house to the west, and I know all these cases are distinguishable, but I think it's good to just familiarize the board generally with some of the thinking that's gone on down here. Greenfield is to the one west of Golub, it abuts Golub. Greenfield came in and asked for a house which generally complied with the overlay standards, which you folks have been pretty good at adhering to. And I believe the square footage of the house that was originally granted was in the area of 3,300 square feet. I have the numbers somewhere, but because I have the Greenfield decisions, but and the request for a pool was denied. But then, and a subsequent application, I think I have both Greenfield applications for you. No, I do have the Greenfield application. Could you pass these out, just the original application? The original application granted the house of a certain square footage, but denied the pool, saying again that Golub was a mistake. But then Greenfield came back in and gave up probably I think maybe 200 square feet of habitable space, maybe. 200 to 220 square feet of habitable space. And in exchange, the board, given all the relevant factors and the revegetation that was offered, et cetera, granted a pool at around 45, something like that. Which is generally, our pool is a bit closer, but is generally the area where we're proposing the pool. So, you know.
The pool did not go any closer to the street, nor to the wetlands in the house.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not. No, it does. Nor would.
It's up right into the side yard there.
Yeah, yes, nor would ours. So, you know, I could be criticized for my sort of parallel thinking. It's really up to this board to see whether or not they think my thinking on this was appropriate, and you'll tell me, obviously. But I thought, given some of this history and some of the give-backs, that the trade-off for surrendering the variance for the garage, which of course would be less mass, the pool is lower, it doesn't have the same mass and height, and agreeing to remove that dock, which is actually sitting in the wetlands and covering it against it, might not be a bad idea to talk about with the board in exchange for what is a really rather small pool, a smaller pool than the Greenfield pool. It's sort of a glorified plunge pool. So, and then there's a little bit of decking around the pool and some decking in the front. I know you're probably jet lagged, Tim, but could I call on you to talk about the re-veg and the decking in the front and the revegetation generally?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, board members, Tim Rump from Aris Design. We're the landscape architects for the applicant. As Mr. Bennett was saying, the eastern edge of the pool is the eastern edge of the edge of the granted garage, okay, which is this edge here. And as you can see, roughly the pool is basically 15 by 7 feet wide at that point. So as Mr. Bennett was saying, it's not more of could be a hot tub for clients on the other side of the meadow lane, perhaps, you know. And then, but we are asking for the intrusion into the side yard setback for the deck on this side.
Although the pool is 25 feet. The pool itself, the water line is 25 feet from the property to the east. I knew much better than to come into the board and ask for a reduction.
And the garage variance was 25 feet also?
No, what was it? Okay, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
it was. From when we.
I'd like
Well,
confirmation on
let's
if
make
you
sure
find
about
that
that,
for
yeah.
me. I thought it was a one-car garage. That seemed big.
We'll get you that information. I should have that for you. I'm sorry,
I believe it
Dan.
was one car, but there was also storage
Yes.
involved in that, and that was one of the things that Mr. Greenfield wanted at that point.
There were
And
stairs
you'll notice
into
in
the
the
house.
other,
Staircase that went up into the house.
the original variance that we're working
22.
off of, there was we had a parking space here with driveway. So we pulled that parking space back, and if the board saw fit to grant the variance, we would also design this deck in a way that we could also park underneath this deck. At this point.
I think the garage. I think it's 22. Where's the garage? It's 37 to
22, yeah, looks like it.
22. So I think we're favoring.
We were favoring the side yard setback at 25 for the pool. And as Mr. Bennett was alluding to, we're creating a different entrance into the site. Right now, that you enter into the site is very awkward on the southeast corner. Our client would like to enter more in the center line each structure at this point. So what we're doing is we're adding more revegetation here. On the previous application, there really we didn't get a proposal or approval to do basically a path to the dock. So we're showing that the dock and the walkway is being removed, and we're vegetating that, but we're asking for a 4-foot wide beach walk, I guess, down to the edge of the water with the canal.
But all the timber and
all of that would be removed.
and any.
And we're, you know, the parking area is basically the same shape as what was approved in the previous variance. But really, what we're looking at is the pool, the deck, access down from the deck to grade, and a walkway out to the, not a walkway per se, but just a path that would be beach sand out to the Dove Canal. And then revegetating the other areas. There is an area now that's been, well, there's a play structure there. So we're taking that up, we're revegetating that back. That was one area that was not involved in it. We just done it.
Like where the swing is, you mean?
Yeah.
So we're taking that up.
I mean, I'm not asking for a big pat on the back for that. I think it was put there.
Well, we just said to the client, we've got to do it.
Yeah, I don't know how
We
that was.
gotta
I
take
don't know how
it
kosher that was to begin with. So
Just gotta be
it would come out anyway.
So you'll be giving up the garage, but you're still gonna do the house. You're gonna enlarge the house still, right? You haven't done that yet.
No. The house is. I think where the square footage of this house is where it's going to be.
He's just doing an interior renovation.
No, there's no square footage addition to
But
the house. I
the
think the
lot
house is-
coverage for the pool and the deck area is larger than the lot coverage of the original garage that was there. You take-
Because of we're moving the deck easterly of the eastern edge of the pool. So there is some increase in lot coverage because of that.
And the elevation of the pool is actually quite high, right? When
Yes.
you drive up the pool, the top of the pool is gonna be like,
It'll
what,
be-
7 feet off the ground?
It'll be at the first floor elevation here.
Well, if you read the FEMA guidelines, a pool is either supposed to be, and I don't know, it's either supposed to be at grade or kicked up in the air.
Right.
I mean, and it's followed in varying degrees throughout the building departments on the east end. But,
Now, I recall Mr. Greenwald's application was influenced a bit by his proximity to the wetland.
Yeah.
And he's 54 feet off the wetland. How far off are you? More, I'm sure.
No,
No, actually,
No?
I think
a little
we're
bit less,
we're
actually.
less. We're at 49 feet, I think.
Oh, yeah?
But it's the
Okay.
It's the
I-
length of this, maybe not even the length of this table.
Okay.
Difference.
Of course, what was on my mind is it'd be kind of nice if these were moved back a few feet just to have an offset, but
Further to the street?
further from the street. But given the
Oh,
wetland, I
oh,
don't know.
yeah.
I can't say.
I think you're supposed to, we
that's
would like to do that, but
With all of these lots on Middle Lane
Yeah.
on the north side.
Where would all the equipment go for the pool?
well, we're gonna have to house it. No, I'm sorry, go ahead. Tim.
Under the
Well,
deck.
the thought was is that we would put it, you know, as high up and meet FEMA
I think we have to meet FEMA.
with the equipment.
It's no different than any other mechanicals in this zone.
So where would it be?
Up on the deck?
Up on the deck?
No, we probably added, there is some space, you know, somewhere up on the, in that first floor area, of the mechanical room. What we would do is we would heat it with our heating system. The heating system is being upgraded, so we would put a heat exchanger on the heat system for the house, so that we really only have to have a pump for the
Filter.
filter.
And it's a
So all the
small pool.
plumbing is really gonna be exposed for this pool. If you got underneath that deck, you'd see all the plumbing.
We'd actually, you know, we show areas to screen it with things and with lattice, but that was, our client understands that.
I think from a stormwater prevention point of view, I think you want it up in the air.
Yeah.
It does create some issues, but we can deal with those issues, but I think that's where you want the pool.
Well, we were always concerned about the pool chemicals too, and is this gonna be a saltwater pool? What type of
Well, the idea is, and I believe we've been in front of this board before with new technology where and we've talked to our client, Mr. Katzoff, about it. The expense of it is more than a normal, pool system, but it's actually, the water is actually a higher grade than
You should do the salt pool, you mean?
Well, no, it's actually different than a salt pool. They're using ultraviolet, light to
Disinfect.
But if you ever got a pipe break, because those pipes are all exposed and the water was spilling out, draining in the wetlands, it's not as toxic as like heavy chlorine with a
No,
pH.
There's no chlorine at all, Mr. Guzzo.
We were actually on the Egnum project
Yeah.
before the Conservation Board in the town of Southampton. Same thing, it's untreated water.
Right.
I mean, when I say untreated, it's not chemically treated.
Right.
I don't want to make
No, it's
any
not.
misrepresentation.
No, it's not. But that's the but the system is another.
We can
Can
give you
you,
the.
can you get any paperwork
Yeah,
that
we will,
describes?
yes, we will.
can.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we
We'll get
can.
it to Chick, obviously.
And we can,
The board.
as we've
And the
done
board.
for the board,
Well,
okay.
we can give you the location and how we're gonna treat that, the pool filtration system. A lot of times we'll tack it up on a wall and that kind of thing, so we can show you those details if the board would like.
It's a small pool, so it shouldn't take a lot.
Shouldn't take much.
Sort of like a big hot tub.
Well,
That's.
It's really a plunge,
it's really a place for the kids to get wet. So I think
How deep will it
we
be?
need to get some information
We're
for
looking
it.
at 5 feet.
5 feet all the way across?
No one's diving.
Like that uniform.
Yeah.
So is the base of the pool, it's all one depth, 5 feet? And then is the base of the pool sitting on the ground, or is it actually,
No, it'll be on piles with a pile cap system.
so you do have to have
We-
piles?
Yeah, we anticipate there's gonna be at least, 24 to 30 inches of open space underneath that.
Wow,
The
Yeah,
square
we could
foot,
give
this is
you-
gonna be a high-priced pool.
yeah.
We can give you a section on that and so that you can see that relationship if you'd like. I think what we wanted to do is see if the board was interested in tonight, just because of what Mr. Bennett was talking about in terms of giving back some things and using the variance that we have. See if it's possible.
Covenanting against it, taking out that
And
dock
does
system.
it meet the front yard setback in front of the pool, or not?
No, 80 feet.
So you need 80 feet?
Well, we're in an R80
Yeah.
zone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
It's like everything down there. I think you generally it's 60 feet is a general guideline down there. That's in the overlay district.
And what is the measurement from the street to the front of the pool?
The pool's not the issue. I think that's it's hard to read here, even with my glasses. I think it's right at 60. Maybe even a little bit. 63.6?
Yeah.
Yeah, 63.6 for the pool. Although that reworked entranceway, we did want a little bit of relief there to, I think, 52.5. 52.5, yeah. But again, these houses they're tough. Again, I think the existing house, it's fair to say, is at or below the max suggestion in the overlay, that proposed overlay. So really what we're talking, and there's no request for an increase in usable floor area at all. That was talked about. I was discouraged the
Yeah.
client
No, we were.
from that. Everybody wants that, and I said, look, the board has pretty much held the line at around, 33, 34, sometimes less. I think even Beard's house is like, might even be a shade below 3,000. This is like 29 or something like that, so.
So what you are suggesting is to trade the dock and the garage for the pool and some deck work?
Yes.
That's basically what it is.
What do you think of that, Chick? Is that a fair swap?
Well, I kind of wanted to get a sense of the board as well. John had called me about this, and I, was hard pressed to really give him feedback one way or the other. I do think that there could be some environmental merit to it. But I would ask, you know, if the board is inclined to entertain it further, I would ask the applicant to provide some more information on that balance. Square footages, looking at, you know, increased buffer area, removal of dock, the net differences. John's rider with the application has good zoning information, but I'd kind of like to have that related more to environmental.
Okay.
And also considering the use, because, you know, a garage is enclosed, could be somewhat passive. A pool is a little different, there's more activity. So, you know, those are some of the things that I was wrestling with, but why should I wrestle with it? I'll let them do it. And then, you know, just, I had a number of, again, minor comments, more from a consistency standpoint with the application, and questions about, you know, if the driveway is being removed, how much material is coming back in. Little things like that, that I put together in a memo.
Oh, you do?
Just so we don't have to go through all of it here. But I can leave that with the board and the applicant if you would like. And then just a couple of other minor comments on the planting plan as well. Mostly consistency and beach grass planting, unless you really think it's okay at 6 inches. I actually think it should be spaced farther apart. And I think that's a little more successful. But those type of things. And it actually, the memo also kind of talks about this whole balancing of the environmental aspects of it. Setbacks, square footages, environmental benefit. So that was my feeling.
About the board, do we have any other questions or comments?
Do you have an elevation of what this would, you know, when you drive in the driveway, it's gonna be a pretty high wall if you're gonna have some kind of garage door that goes in under the left. Do you have some kind of elevation of what that's gonna look like?
We can
We'll generate
prepare that.
yeah.
We have some sketches, just so from a study standpoint, for that we kind of ran through with the client, but we can formalize that and get that to the board.
So you want to see, it's a visual impact issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. I guess that would be a south elevation.
Yeah.
Do you see any other wetland improvements that could be improved on this property, along with just taking that dock out? I don't know if the building the path is any less invasive than what's there, you know, the questions like that, you know.
Well, the
So
dock actually
I don't know
has-
if that's, taking the dock out is sort of out in the water, but, you know, just,
I mean, there's, you know, there's quite a bit of literature on docks and the fact that they do impact wetlands just due to scouring and obviously boating activities if they're conducted. So I see, you know, that's definitely a benefit. I think that revegetating some of the areas that are barren is also beneficial, although I don't know where the kids are gonna play, maybe in the pool.
In the pool, in the front yard, in the street.
So, you know, I hadn't looked at it much more than what I was taking from the applicant as far as other mitigation that could be looked at. But I did have, you know, a couple of suggestions on that as well.
Okay.
So,
Great.
Rick, do you have anything?
Yeah, a couple of comments again for more information. I didn't have a chance to try to really analyze this in relation to some of our decisions. Among other things, I didn't have the decision for this property. Now I have that and some others, but, okay, first of all, I think we should have some data and summarized in writing with respect to the various so-called overlay district guidelines.
Okay.
When we did the Greenwald case, I know we had all that data, and we went through it.
Yes, you did. Quite
I don't think we have much of that data here. So I'd like to see that. And another thing that would be helpful, it's really hard looking at this survey to pick up the setbacks of what, et cetera. Tim's plan, you know, is like a blow-up, and that really gives you a good idea of what is shown on the survey. But of course, Tim's plan doesn't show the setbacks. That's normally shown on the survey. I don't care whether you have the surveyor blow up that section, or whether you have Tim do a sketch that says it's based on the survey. that we can,
I think it would be easier on the eye for Tim to do it, if that's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I
Okay.
mean, you know, looking at Tim's plans, it's easy on the eye. Looking at here and with my old eyes,
No, I was looking for a magnifying glass with my reading
right,
glasses on.
and
so-
that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going into surgery.
And another thing, I don't even see the setback of the proposed front entry deck on this survey. Maybe I'm missing it.
I think we must have had something for the,
So we don't have to spend time,
no, you're right. You're right. Well, there's a walk, whatever it is, we'll get it. 50,
That's a 57.5?
nah,
no, it's 52 point, well, according to the application, it's 52.5.
we'll clarify that. We'll clarify that and put it on the, sorry.
That's all I had for the moment.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard of this application? No, therefore I have a motion to adjourn for all purposes.
I'll also provide that memo.
Second?
Yeah,
Yeah,
is that the memo?
that's the memo.
I'm sorry, when's the, it's obviously, there's a different, December, so it's an earlier meeting, I assume, the next meeting? What's the date? I'm sorry.
17th.
17th.
1 week earlier than usual.
Thanks.
Did you move to adjourn for all purposes?
I did, we seconded, I think, did
Did we
we?
second?
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
What's the,
It's this, Ray, it's this.
work session is
He's sneaking out.
work session is the,
Hey,
Kevin, he's sneaking out.
Holy,
chick,
what-
half a day.
what's going on?
Have a good night, gentlemen.
We might have a question for you at the end of the evening.
Yeah,
what's the work session, the 10th?
15. It's 2 days apart.
We're in November.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, Chick.
Good night.
The 17th,
Place is clearing out.
15th, same week.
Do that.
On the application, case number 2902, Ford and McKee, 430 Halsey Neck Lane.
Good evening, members of the board. Mr. DePietris, Monica Navia with Burke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, for the applicant Ford and McKee. Also with me tonight is Mr. Siamak Sami, the architect. I have the affidavit of mailing and of posting I'd like to submit. Gentlemen, this property at 430 Halsey Neck Lane is in an R120 zone in the estate section. We are here tonight seeking a side yard variance to 9.4 feet from the required 35 feet, applying section 116.11.1. And under section 116-981B2, an expansion of the non-conforming accessory structure from 600 square feet to 800 square feet. The garage, which the applicant is seeking to expand, is a modest garage, and the expansion would accommodate one extra bay. And I have photos of the existing garage and the rendering of what the expansion would be. So I want to submit that. The granting of the variance will not cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, or will it create a detriment to the nearby properties. There's an open space directly adjoining the property where the garage is located. The variance is not substantial. The degree of nonconformity is not being increased, and the side yard setback variance relief is modest. The applicant also is not going beyond what is allowed under the code, which is 800 square feet. So we're just asking for 200 extra square feet. It will not have, this variance, an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And last but not least, the hardship is not self-created, as the applicant purchased the garage in the location where it exists today, and tearing down the existing garage and placing a new garage in a conforming location would be uneconomical, and the driveway would probably need to be reconfigured. So based on those points, we request that you grant our requested variances.
Are you within the 50% rule? obviously,
Yes,
the 33%.
yes,
And you're not going any closer to the lot line than the garage now exists.
correct.
Well,
The garage is there.
Let me ask you just a minor question on that, because the survey shows a 9-foot setback from the northeast corner, my direction right, yeah, of the addition, where, in other words, the setback to the northwest corner of the existing garage. CMAX site plan shows 8.8 feet from the northwesterly corner. So I assume that we're talking about 8.8 feet rather than, I just want to get the figure correct.
Mr. Semi, do you want
The
to?
garage is on a slight
Not an angle, right?
Yeah, that's what I
So,
figured. No, I just
yes,
wanted to confirm that
extending extending it 10 feet westerly would basically encroach a few inches.
So you are going slightly closer to the lot.
I mean, it's minimal, but I just wanted to
Right,
clarify
okay.
that.
Do you have any questions from the board? Rick, everything else?
I just had one other question. I would note that, as indicated on CMAX plan, the floor area of the resulting garage will be 800 square feet, which is a permitted size, so they're conforming to that. And I just wanted to confirm one other thing. I didn't have an opportunity to closely look at the elevation plans. Will the proposed addition conform with the 16-foot height limitation?
Yes, it's not only we're conforming to the 16-foot height, but we're not extending the ridge line of the existing garage, which is just going to be a 9-story with a shed onto the existing garage.
This would be the bay, so they're not adding anything to the,
Yeah, I thought so, but I didn't have a chance, given the short time between the work session Tuesday night and tonight's meeting and the decisions that I had to generate, I didn't have a time to closely look at it. So I just wanted to confirm that.
There is a 9-foot high hedge all along that property line, so this new proposed extension would not even be exposed.
They were putting in some more stuff there this afternoon.
Pardon me?
They were putting in some more vegetation
Correct,
today.
and all along that drive, they're planting more hedges.
Just out of curiosity, if you had extended the ridge line, would you have made the 50% requirement?
As far as lot
33 now,
coverage?
is that what it is?
Yeah, it's about 30.
As far as lot coverage you consider?
No, the expansion.
The expansion,
Because both floors
no,
count,
it
right,
would
in the
not.
village?
It would not. Basically, existing footprint is 600. There's a small, if you were to call it an apartment, it's not even an apartment on the second floor of it. This is all pre-existing, non-conforming. We're not extending that by any means.
No, it's a small point, it doesn't matter.
We're not touching the second floor of that.
Where are you moving the shed?
The shed's just going to be removed from that site. As to where, it's a temporary structure, we most probably will just be eliminating it.
Okay. I have a question that's a little off the wall. Do those deer grates work?
Amazingly enough, I was looking into it for my own house because.
They should, like cattle guard, you know.
This is a
West.
cattle, this is a concrete one. Usually they're steel barrels that they put down, but this one works pretty good. From what I spoke to with Kim, the caretaker, he said that
Concrete.
it works pretty good. It's concrete. It's pretty deep, and
Oh, okay, so they-
the key, of course, is making sure that deer fence is enclosed all around the rest of the property. They do break it
Yes,
on
they
a
do.
regular basis, so
They
it's
do.
an issue of maintenance, basically.
The reason I asked that question was because I was trying to figure out why you didn't extend the ridge line. Was it because of the percent expansion? Was it because the owner didn't need it, didn't want to pay for it?
The owner didn't need that.
Architectural, that's all I'm asking.
No, the owner didn't need that. That was basically they're not even using it right now. They're just gonna clean it up probably. The issue was just adding one more garage space to the structure, and that was the need. We obviously have options of building new garages somewhere else on the site, but the way that house was designed, there is a brick courtyard that this structure, this garage structure, is part of the architecture of that brick courtyard. So that meant that we had to abandon all that brick courtyard, all the brick wall that is around it, and build something somewhere else. This house, this garage, if I'm not mistaken, was built back in the 1960s. Again, setbacks and zoning were not an issue, I guess, at that time. And hence the proximity to the property. And by the way, this property was purchased from the Metzecappers, which owned the open field next door, and they're comfortable with what we're proposing here. I have no problem with
Okay, so the addition is one story.
that. Correct, one story with a shed roof.
Is there anyone in the public wishes to be heard? No.
I don't have any problem adjourning it for decision. I think we should write it up.
I move we adjourn this application for decision.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the application of case number 2903, Alley Guy, 88 Narrow Lane.
My name is James Bradnick, live at 60 Lincliffe Road in Hampton Bays. The mailings and the affidavit for the sign. I'm the agent for Alley Guy, located at 88 Narrow Lane, the village of Southampton. We're asking for 7.5 feet relief on the rear yard setback. It's a 10-foot addition we're proposing. Everything meets requirements except for the last 7.5 feet. But the existing house now, it'd be no further than the existing house now. It's at the same distance that we're asking for. So it's 75 square feet that we're asking for relief. The whole addition is 372 square feet in total. 10 by, I think 38 is the depth of the house. We want to keep it as a rectangle in the floor plan. Without this, it doesn't give her what she's looking for. Makes a big difference, the two different floor plans. That little bit of space gives her a lot.
You're okay so far as the sideline goes, right?
Yes.
So it's only what you've got shaded here in green, that little rectangle at the very eastern end
Yes, sir.
that needs relief.
Yes,
And it isn't any closer than the house itself, right?
that's right. And the property is, it's 35-foot evergreens all the way around. I don't know what else I could share with you.
Well, you're gonna take the outdoor shower out,
That's right,
remove the pool equipment.
that's right.
So as long as that goes to a conforming location.
Thank you, well, make sure of that.
You got room there by the pergola or behind the pergola before the garage.
Yep.
Yeah,
No problem.
Jerry, Rick?
Just one question, really, a matter of clarification. The survey has a 52.4 foot figure. that is presumably the setback that we're talking about, but it doesn't have any arrows that I see. It's inside the swimming pool, so,
The 52 point.
I think we should ask them to, just for clarification, to give us, to have the surveyor show the setback to the existing northeast corner of the house and to the setback of the northeast corner of the addition.
Well, actually, the architect forgot to, the surveyor rather, forgot to put that 52.4 in. I asked him to do that, and I did notice he didn't put arrows. That it is strange that it's in the pool, but that is the distance off the
I'm not
roof.
questioning it, but just for the record, before we render a decision, you should have your surveyor clarify that and show an arrow to both, you know what I'm talking about, the existing corner?
Yes.
And the corner of the proposed addition.
I understand and agree totally, yeah.
Otherwise, there's always a chance of an oversight, and you might have a problem later.
Right.
So let's get it squared away now, and then if you get that survey to us by, when's our work session?
15th.
By December 15, we could probably do a decision on December 17.
Okay, so you need that before you can make a decision.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So we would have that by the 15th, which is the work session, and then,
Okay. Okay.
right? Is there anyone around the audience like to hear to this application?
My name is Mark McIntyre, and this is Stuart Sklar. We're the next door neighbors. The only question I have, because they're right, I've been in that house, and this will help that house. The only question that I have is where the pool equipment will go, because our bedroom is on the other side of that line that you see, which is the hedge line, and that pool equipment that's existing now has had noise issues in the past. So I'd just like some definition of where that pool equipment's going to go before the application is approved.
Well, it has to go in an area that conforms.
Yes.
Conforming location. They're not gonna move it toward the north.
Okay.
We're gonna have to move it toward the south somewhere.
Okay.
Where, I don't know, but it would go further away from your lot line than it is now.
Okay.
Can we see that? Can we have that shown?
Maybe that'd be good if we had that shown.
Okay.
Well, you're doing the other 52.4, why don't you show where you're gonna put the pool equipment?
Okay. Okay.
And my only other comment, and I'm not exactly sure it's right for this forum, but on the survey, because we got the notice Tuesday, there's a fence line on this survey, and as you can see from this is the survey from my house. There was a wood fence that went down on their property line that was taken down, and another fence was put up. And at the time that fence went up between our property, I questioned the fence company if they were on their property line or not, and I was assured they were. But as I look on this survey, it confirms my suspicion that the fence that was replaced is actually on my property. And I don't know if this is the forum to address that, but as part of this, that fence that goes down the side yard by the pool that crosses into my land was a replacement fence for what was a wooden structure that was taken down a couple of years ago.
I would get it flagged, and if it is, gotta move it.
Those are my only two issues. Thank you.
You're good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
We'll hold this open.
we can close it for decision, subject to receipt of the requested survey.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the application of case number 2904, Pheasant Lane, LP 41 and 51 Pheasant Lane.
Good evening, Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road, Southampton, for the applicant. I'm passing out my affidavits of posting and mailing. I'm here tonight seeking the confirmation or the reestablishment of a lot line that was originally established as part of the filed subdivision map. It was approved by the planning board. It's at the entrance to Pheasant Lane off of Wickapog. The original subdivision map was approved back in 1976. It is a filed map. And the lot line that we're proposing is exactly the same lot line that exists on that map and on the tax map now. It's never been merged of record, although technically for zoning and building purposes, it is now in the same ownership. The history here is that the lot that you see that has a house on it at 41 Pheasant Lane was purchased first by Myron Minskoff, and he took title to that in both his name and his wife's name. And then Myron Minskoff carefully took title later, 6 months later. He didn't buy the lots at the same time either, but 6 months later, he bought the lot in back of him, which is the other subject of this application, which is at 51 Pheasant Lane. It's lot 8 on the subdivision map. He lived there for many years after that, and ultimately, in December of 2000, Myron Minskoff died. His widow was also his executor and didn't take any action with regard to this property for 7 years. 7 years later, with the aid of a New York City law firm who was helping her on the estate, she transferred title to both properties into the same LLC or LP. It is an entity in which actually their daughter now, Sarah Minskoff Allen, has controlling beneficial interest of both properties. And, well, it's owned by the same entity now. The lots were in, when the subdivision was approved, they were in District R80. That district was upzoned to R120 in 1983. So that was after the Minskoffs acquired it. It's after it was in single and separate ownership, and after their house was constructed on the one lot. There are separate tax map parcels. There are separate tax bills. They've always paid their taxes separately, and I included copies of those tax bills as an exhibit to your packet there, as well as I attached a copy of the subdivision map, the original subdivision map, which shows all 8 lots here, which are all similarly configured. In addition to that, there's another subdivision map directly across the street on Pheasant Lane, which is very, very similar in its configuration. So we have stacks of lots on both sides that are all pretty equal in size and shape. And I also provided in your packet a sort of snapshot of the general area, not just these 2 subdivisions, but also across the street on Wickapog in the general area. It's predominantly composed of, or comprised of lots of this kind of size and dimension. Both of these lots are 80,000 square feet plus. The only exception to that is probably right in back. And by the way, in the back of this vacant lot, which we're seeking essentially to make this vacant lot, it's not totally vacant, it has a tennis court on it, I'm going to get to that. But we're trying to make that into a buildable lot, a separate buildable lot under the code. Again, that's why the variance relief is sought. It abuts quite a strip of parkland that was dedicated to the village as part of this subdivision, and then a wider swath of land that is part of a nature walk. So it's quite some distance, it's hundreds of feet away from the nearest property in the back. Those properties to the, let's see, that's to the west. The properties to the west are the part of the Old Town thing, the Old Town subdivision, and I would argue that those are really a community in of themselves. They're really set apart in many ways. The lots are larger, but they're also gated off separately and quite some distance from this property and the neighborhood that is surrounding it. Mr. Minskoff put a tennis court on the lot that is otherwise vacant, except for a tennis court, and it has a shed on it. Both the tennis court and the shed are proposed to be removed completely if this variance relief is granted. I can't explain exactly how he got a building permit and a CO for this shed and tennis court without actually merging the properties, because conceitedly they were upzoned at the time the building permit was issued. I did note from the file, and I did go to the files and look at everything, and I attached the entire building permit file for that application. Actually, the pool on the one lot and the tennis court on this lot were part of the same application. And there was a hand-drawn crazy survey. I mean, it was taken from the original survey, but someone had whited out the dividing lines and drew them back in, and it was pretty hard to figure out.
Can you tell us when the tennis court was built?
Yeah, 1983.
Tennis court was built in 83.
It was built in 83 or 84.
There's a CO for it?
There's a CO for it.
Right. Back at that time, the building department probably looked at it as a merger by just showing it as
The
one
ownership?
overall piece.
So she took her eye off the ball and the properties merged when they became same owner?
Yeah,
correct?
the reason they're here today is that, well, putting aside that.
They don't want that.
We do have a provision in our zoning code that recognizes that mergers can occur inadvertently when somebody dies. It's not unusual for a husband and wife to together own one parcel and just one of them the other, and then when the first dies, they both end up in the same name, and that causes a merger. We have a provision in our zoning code that says if within 3 years after the date of death, they're put in single and separate ownership, then it's okay, there's no merger. But in this case, the New York City law firm who was handling the estate obviously was not familiar with our local code and didn't do anything within those 3 years. We've had some cases like this before.
Yeah, in fact, I attached one recent case, which I think had a fact pattern that was less beneficial in some ways. The Cowles case, I attached the decision. It was pretty recent. It was a John Bennett came in and argued it. It was a case, again, in an R120 zoning district down in the estate section, where there hadn't even been an approved filed subdivision map. It was described property, and there was a swimming pool straddling the property line right in the middle of it. Again, he came and agreed to remove that pool as a condition of the issuance of a variance, just as we are proposing to remove the tennis court and the shed if you grant the variance.
I just wanted to add that since they're going to remove the tennis court, they're eliminating the benefit that they obtained from the, call it an informal merger back when they built the tennis court. There is, well, I'd also like to thank Linda for the thorough presentation of information that was with the application packet. She addressed all of the questions that I would have in a case like this. So I don't have any further questions regarding the information she submitted, but there is one additional thing that we need. As Linda indicated, this subdivision map was approved back in '76 or something like that.
Yes.
At that time, you could count the pole portion of a flagpole lot as part of lot area. So this was a conforming lot. The rear lot, which is a flagpole lot, was a conforming lot at the time of the subdivision. Subsequently, I think it was somewhere around 1993, we added a provision to the zoning code that said you have to exclude the pole portion in calculating lot area. So Linda, we're going to need you to have the surveyor show on this survey the lot area excluding the pole portion,
Okay,
because you'll actually need a lot area variance to that figure.
yes, because right, it won't conform.
It doesn't, it's just a detail.
It's
It doesn't-
grandfathered, yeah.
It
but-
doesn't change the substance of the application.
Yes, I'll get them to do that.
Okay. That's all I had.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard?
Just came to see your pretty faces.
You mind?
That's a lie.
Only yours.
That's why you sat in the back.
Well, when he was in my class, he sat in the back too. Way in the back.
Have a good evening.
Those are the good old days, right, Jeff?
Exactly.
So we're going to adjourn this for all purposes?
Again,
You want to close it for,
we can close it for decision, subject to receipt of the requested survey.
So
I know what
moved.
the survey is going to show. I can calculate
Yeah,
okay.
from this survey what it is, but we should have the
just
figure
have to
for
get
sure.
Squires to do it.
Okay.
Move we close this application for decision.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn the meeting.
I move that this meeting of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals be closed.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.